I've been travelling all over Armenia.
I'm missing you terribly, Alun.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alan and I'm here with the ever Armenian Adam.
I wish I was a little bit more Armenian, mate, because then I could have shown you around, shown you a good time.
I pass for Armenian walking around the streets of Yerevan. People don't know the difference.
You pass for quite a few sort of ethnicities, if that's what we're calling them, races that we've been encountering. Do you feel like you can just anonymously slip through the streets of Armenia and Georgia as well now?
I've been doing very well in the Caucasus. I just go around as me, and people think none the wiser until they hear me speak, and then they go, that is a man who could not be more foreign. But, mate, the listeners know I've spent a long old time in Tbilisi. I spent a month recharging the old travel batteries, and after a whole month in Tbilisi, I felt prepared. I felt like, that little travel spark from deep within the nethers that comes, the feet start itching and you think, oh, I need to cross a border. I need to try a new cuisine. I need to see a sight as yet unseen.
Yeah. You had said to me that this was one of the first times you really felt like you needed that recharge. And, I've got to hold my hands up. Whenever you hear other people say that when they've been traveling for a few months or maybe much longer, they just need to stay somewhere. Or maybe for them, it means going home. But for you, this was like the first time when you really, really felt like you needed that. Maybe it's age, mate. Who knows? Mate, you've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, and we get that message a lot on Tripology. People go to our website, tripologypodcast.com. They write us a message in the Hostel common room and they say, I've gone traveling, but already I feel burnt out. I don't want to travel no more. I feel sick of it. And we say, you've got to take a break, do a work away, stop for a while. Who would I be if I didn't practice what I preached? I was feeling burnt out. So I took a break in Tbilisi. Felt recharged, got my health back on track, started doing some yoga, started lifting some weight, started taking control of my diet. After 1 month, I felt re-energized, revitalized, ready to go back on the road. So the big takeaway from that was 100% the right thing to do. Airbnb in Tbilisi reset me.
Oh, nice. And Georgia was a good place for it as well. You picked a good destination.
I think so, because it's got really nice food. It's got really nice culture. I got to do a lot of cool stuff, meet a load of people, make some really good friends. I think Georgia was the perfect spot to do all of it in. But one thing about Georgia is only a 5-hour drive to Armenia. Ooh, Armenia.
It's not the top of everyone's list, is it? I mean, I've just looked at it on a map. We're nothing on this show if not honest. I've just looked on a map at where Armenia is situated, and it's sort of wedged in between Azerbaijan and Georgia in that sort of bottom left hand corner, right? And then you can go down to Turkey, I guess.
Yeah, importantly, Armenia is a place that's unfortunately been defined by its wedgedness between those three nations.
Oh, really?
Obviously, well, yeah, and there's been, really historical consequences for that positioning. So I thought, being as I am, only 5 hours away, that is such a short period of time, it would be remiss not to leave Tbilisi and go straight to Armenia, explore Armenia, and then enact a plan to go back, save Georgia for exploration for a bit later, and then I go back into Turkey. I've got all sorts of a plan hatched, but first of all, I had to go and see what was to be seen in Armenia.
Have you done much research about Armenia? Did you know anyone who'd been there, or what was it that tickled your fancy?
No research. I know a little bit about Armenia because I'm a historically interested person, and I was just in Azerbaijan. So I knew about the conflict of one region, on the border of Azerbaijan and Armenia. I've obviously heard about the Armenian genocide and the awful things that happened to the Armenian people during that period of time. So I have some historical context for Armenia, but didn't really know what to expect. So I got in a little marshrutka and headed in this little minivan all the way to Armenia. Only 5 hours, a very easy border crossing.
An easy border crossing. Wow. We don't talk about border crossings enough on this show, but they do form a really significant part of most people's trips when you're traveling overland. But the border crossing, you've had another border crossing quite recently, haven't you? That was also a breeze.
Yep, every border crossing I've done so far that has involved Georgia has been incredibly easy. It's almost as if the Georgians don't care about whether people come in or out. It's almost as if they're quite open and welcome with the fact that people from all different parts of the world can come in and out. So the only problem that presented itself even slightly at the border was the fact that I had an Azerbaijani stamp. So the Armenians wanted to know a little bit about that. Why did you go to Azerbaijan? What do you mean by it?
Relations aren't good, I take it.
No, they dislike each other quite profusely, and there's a big historical context for that, which can be found on a different podcast, not this one. This podcast is about travel.
Do a bit of role play then. I'm saying, "Oh, hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Alun. You look like you look like you've been having a good time. You're looking a lot
What's
younger."
What's that supposed to mean? What do you mean I look like I've been having a good time?
Well, I mean, if it was me, I just would have done more buttons on my shirt up. But it's for our video listeners.
For a border crossing, you seem to be dressed very casually, sir.
I'm going to have to tick explicit on the YouTube upload. I know that much.
The person before you was wearing a tuxedo, and you've come here dressed like that.
Anyone would think you don't want to be here. But so they say, what was your purpose for visiting? All this kind of these questions, and we've seen them when we were traveling together as well, especially through sort of Oman and Pakistan a lot as well. It's kind of like, why are you here? Travel, the reason that you probably were half ticking already. How long are you going to be here? 30 days, the amount of my visa that I'm allowed. And it's just kind of like, should we just all save ourselves some time and just stamp the passport and I'll come in?
Whatever the most logical thing for me to say that will get me through this border crossing as quickly as possible is going to be the answer.
Yeah, even if it's a lie, that's still going to be what I'm going to say.
Whatever. The visa's for 30 days. I want to be here for 31 days, please, and I'm a spy. So
you didn't ask my profession. Shit.
I got through the border pretty easily. They said, why did you go to Azerbaijan? And I said, look, I travel all the time. I travel through everywhere. They went, that's a good answer. Come on through. I arrived in Armenia, and I decided to tackle Armenia slightly differently than I've previously gone about traveling. And that is because I was all recharged in Tbilisi, but keen-eared listeners will remember that Azerbaijan I found frustrating because I had gone on some really wild excursions to avoid tours, and I'd ended up being disappointed because I'd ended up just getting stuck behind tours anyway, spending just as much money to expend a lot more effort, go on my own to see these things. Armenia is a country that can be seen primarily by taking day trips out of Yerevan, and I decided, I looked up the first day, like what sort of thing I would like to do. And it transpired that for me, on my own, to get a taxi to all these locations, it would add up to being more expensive than just taking a tour. And then I'd have the added benefit of meeting people, having stuff explained to me, doing all these things. So I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to take a couple of tours, and then in 2 days, I can see the vast majority of the quote-unquote touristy things that Armenia has to offer. And I'll spend the rest of the time just exploring Yerevan, sipping coffee, trying Armenian food, and just like continuing the recharge relaxation experience of Tbilisi in a new city. And I have to say, I think it was a good option for me at the time I did it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because then you don't have to worry about any of the logistics, organising. You just get fed information, shipped on a what were you driving around in, a minibus or
a little minibus? Little minibus with 15 other travelers maybe. And I think that importantly, on Tripology, we always say backpack, go as cheap as possible, all carry on, make the adventure. And that is obviously the way that we love to travel. I just think I'm opening my mind to the idea that in certain occasions, it just makes more sense to do something like a tour when it's cost effective and efficient. For example, if you were with me we'd have grabbed some people at a hostel, filled up a taxi, we'd have gone without a tour and had a great time. That would be what we did. But as someone who was traveling solo, it made more sense just to be adaptable and go, okay, you know what? On this occasion, I'm going to pay $30 for a tour and I'll get to see 5 places in a day, as opposed to spend $11 on a one-way taxi and then have to get another taxi to another place. Public transport might not be the most available, then taxi back. I'll spend about the same money and I've seen less.
Yeah, I get that. I remember when I was in Mexico City, I went out to see, this big sort of would have been Mayan temple complex, and I did public transport all the way there, couple of buses back, and towards the end of it I thought, yeah, I've saved myself a bit of money, but I haven't spoken to anyone in 4 hours, and it's taken me hours and hours longer than it should have done. I remember walking around the complex like absolutely gunning it, just walking really, really fast because it's absolutely sweltering, and I just got back on the bus and I just thought, you had an option for a tour, which was, a lot more expensive, but maybe you would have actually had fun.
It's maybe just worth bearing in mind that sometimes part of good travel is not being so headstrong and thinking like, this is the kind of traveler I am, and just making an actual smart, financial, sensible decision based on what's available to you from a place.
Yeah, sometimes it's very impractical to try and be sort of hell-bent on doing the cheapest thing all the time. What was the demographic on the minibus like?
Oh, aged people they were. Really?
It was Saga, was it? You went on a Saga holiday to Armenia.
Oh, mate, there was one person, I'm going to put her on blast on this thing. She was on this tour, right, and she decided that she needed to get home earlier than the tour allowed because she had a meeting.
Was she the driver?
No, she was just she was an American lady who had a sort of a meeting in Yerevan that she needed to get to, and she wanted to be back an hour earlier than everyone else. So she proceeded to try and engineer situations that would bring the tour back to Yerevan sooner than it had originally anticipated. Someone got motion sickness. Someone was sick out of the bus, and she went, "Oh, sick out the bus, are you? Might be time to hire a subsidiary sort of taxi to take us back. I'd be willing to volunteer as a passenger." She was engineering, so manipulating.
You're not going to continue the tour, are you, with motion sickness?
I actually think it would be immoral for you to continue the tour because you stink to high heaven of vomit and no one else wants to experience that. But I, being the martyr I am, would happily sit in the passenger seat of another taxi paid for by the tour company. She was awful.
How many times did she try and, dig her fingers in to try and get you all back? Because were you talking to other people? 3 times?
Yeah.
Were you talking to other people in the group, like forming a little ganging up against her?
Yeah, of course I was. I was rolling my eyes really like as loudly as I could roll my eyes. And then it got really like tenuous towards the end. She was like, look around, see someone and go, "Oh, you look tired. Why not go back to Yerevan?"
Isn't it today the winter solstice or something? Don't the clocks go forward an hour?
Yeah. Anyone suffer from werewolfism because I hear the moon's full tonight? Yeah, she was awful, man. But let me talk you through some of the highlights that I saw in Armenia because I've got a little second half that I want to discuss. So,
sick.
Couple of the really cool things, man. Garni Temple. It's an early pagan temple to the god Mithra, who some people think was inspiration behind some of the nativity stories of Jesus Christ. So, okay. Regardless of what your beliefs are on, as a listener of Tripology Podcast, sometimes we like to look at the etymology of certain things. Some people think that Mithra, virgin birth in a stable, winter solstice, maybe there's some similarities to draw between him and the birth of Jesus. So went to see an early pagan temple to Mithra. It was quite cool.
Architecture similar to anything that I would have seen, do you think?
It was actually Roman built, funnily enough. So it's like very Roman pillars like ascending up. And then Armenia, famous for its monasteries. There's a tremendous amount of monasteries and churches. They're a very, very Christian country.
Right. Okay.
So that's why
That's
the
really cool.
pagan church is somewhat out of place and unusual to visit. But Geghard Monastery was my personal favorite. It was this huge structure carved monolithically out of a cave. So they
Whoa.
spiraled down from the top and just carved inwards. And there's all these like pillar structures and crucifixes all scattered about. The acoustics within the cave are absolutely phenomenal. Really beautiful to see.
Oh, wow. And you experienced all of these things with that group, or with the groups that
Yeah,
you
well,
went with?
I went on two different tours. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a couple of different. One goes to one area of Armenia where you've got Dilajan and all these like cool little quaint cities, Lake Savan, a beautiful lake, and then another tour I went to these monasteries and this temple.
Oh, really cool. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you were able to turn it into a good time.
Yeah, there's also this thing called the Symphony of Stones. Have you ever been to the Giant's Causeway in Ireland?
No, I haven't. I know you have, though. I think about that
Yeah, I
actually
have.
more than I mention.
Well, why
I
do you
don't.
leave?
I don't know why. Just if ever I see a picture of it, and because it's pretty iconic, isn't it? I mean, it looks crazy. It doesn't look like it was made by nature. I don't think.
Well, exactly right. The Symphony of Stones in Armenia is exactly the same as the Giant's Causeway, but a mirror image of.
A mirror image of.
Yeah, and I know that seems counterintuitive. When I say that, what springs to your mind? What have I conjured?
Are they hexagonal or are they sort of?
Yeah,
They are, or octagonal. A mirror image.
Yeah.
Oh, I really don't know because aren't they? They're close to the coast, aren't they?
Yeah, place the mirror horizontally and you'll get closer.
Oh, so they're coming down from the ceiling.
You got it. Yeah, they're coming down from like a mountaintop as opposed to
Cool.
the sea. It's really interesting to see. Very beautiful.
Are they made exactly the same way in terms of the,
Yeah, basalt
geology
volcanic
side of things?
rocks. Yeah.
Oh wow, that is pretty cool. Are there any other examples in the world that you know of, or did the person giving the tour said, "Oh, the sister exhibition to this is actually in Ireland, Giant's Causeway"?
Not that I know of, mate. And I'll tell you something about that tour that I went on, because you've asked me whether she explained a little bit. And keen-eared listeners, again, will have noticed that I talked about Geghard Monastery and Garni Temple and the Symphony of Stones as things that I thought were very beautiful. But it seemed like maybe I was lacking some information. And that's because our tour guide basically said, get out of minivan, you have 20 minutes, go and see, and then come back to minivan. And that was the absolute extent of her involvement in my visualization of those things.
So go and do your own research if you're interested. Nice one.
Yeah, which I did do and learn a lot. That's how I knew about Mithra and stuff like that. And I learned about the construction of Geghard Monastery and how they spiraled down into the cave. But really, she left a lot to be desired on the old information front.
Oh God, are we branching out? Are we starting our own tour company in Armenia now? You've seen a gap in the market.
I think we should. I really
informative.
Armenia. Yeah, there's so much more to talk about, mate. So let's just take hold of what we've talked about so far, and we'll return after a brief meditation break. Like a basalt rock dripping from a mountainside, hexagonal shapes allow your conscious mind to return into your brain as we talk more about Armenia. My goodness, was it a nice, fun, relaxed time. I went on those couple of tours, saw what was there to be seen, and spent the rest of my time just being a little bit of a city dweller in Yerevan. I hung out with an artist there, went to a few art galleries, ate some amazing Armenian food like tolma. It's the same as dolma, but it starts with a different consonant. And there's lavash, a type of very traditional Armenian bread. It's beautiful out there, mate. You would love it.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm always going to be jealous of the food for sure. It sort of takes the shape of the countries around it, I'm assuming, the food there. What about the food culture? Lots of little plates or one big main dish?
Oh, I would say more of a little plate thing. I shared a couple of plates with a few people on some occasions, but, very much like into its kebabs, its lavash, the bread. There's manti, which is like a sort of soup-based dish with it's really nice food culture, and I really embraced it wholeheartedly. I went to a lot. I ate out every single night, and it was really, really good stuff, man.
Oh, good. I remember you saying last week you're getting into the art as well, because it's not always easy. It's always something that I wish I was more interested in, or I like to think I'm interested in art. But then I'm like 45 minutes into walking around an art gallery thinking, should I just go and get another coffee?
Well, it was cool hanging around with this Armenian artist. We went to this gallery where there was the opportunity for the visitors to make sketches on the walls. And she drew a little sketch of yours truly, which we can share to the Instagram. It's quite a funny sketch. It sort of captures the essence of me, or so some people have said. So I'll share that on the Instagram. People can say what they think.
Oh,
But
really
racing forward, man, we've got so much to talk about on today's episode. I want to bring an item to the forefront. It's the item nobody asked for. Are you prepared to embark on it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Always.
Alan's miscellaneous travel item.
Alun's miscellaneous travel item. Oh yeah, it's the one thing I can't live without, I swear.
That's right. It's the least favourite, least popular item on the show, Alan's miscellaneous travel item. And the big thing I want to talk about today, mate, is the worst hostel guest I have ever experienced.
Oh dear, what a title that may be. That's
Yeah.
because you've slept in your fair share of dorms. So this person must be so incredibly awful. I hope to the high heavens I never cross their path.
I've slept most of my nights in dorm rooms since the age of 21. I'd say I've experienced more dorm goers than most. We've done episodes before on hostel etiquette. We've done episodes before on like snoring in hostel dormitories, that sort of thing. We've talked about what not to do in hostel dorms. This man, I mean, I think he was there for 2 nights in the hostel that I was staying at in Yerevan.
Mm-hmm.
But his sort of imprint that he left at the hostel lasted much longer than his actual physical presence.
Oh, God.
I think that he broke so many rules. He had so little regard for anybody else that he's left a lasting impression on me, certainly. And I just want to talk to you about him, really, you know. So he's got a whole item on Tripology dedicated to him as a result of his behaviour.
Yeah, my goodness. Well, is it fair to ask where he was from?
Well, this is the thing, Adam. I can't tell you much about the worst hostel goer I've ever experienced, because if I was, for example, able to say to you, yeah, his name was Sven, he was from Scandinavia, that would suggest that I'd had some sort of conversation with him, some sort of relationship had formed, we'd managed to discuss anything. But that is not true, because neither me nor anyone else in the hostel ever dealt with this character.
What? Was he causing a stir with the staff as well?
I never heard him speak, Adam.
What? What did he do?
I couldn't even tell you, like, what his accent was, really, I'm afraid.
But how was he so bad then?
Well, no, yeah, he sounds quiet, doesn't he? He sounds polite, if anything. But unfortunately, his transgressions were beyond that of speech. I'll give you a brief rundown. I met him at 6 a.m. when I sort of stirred, and he was being checked in by one of the members of staff. At 6 a.m. and he sort of loudly threw his suitcase down on the floor, got into bed, started playing videos on his phone out loud, fell asleep with his YouTube going, and started to emit the most unholy of eruptions out of his mouth. This is all at 6 a.m., right?
Oh, no. What an introduction.
He has sleep apnea. So he's like, I mean, for those who don't know, people with sleep apnea, they like essentially like stop breathing during their sleep. They often have to wear a CPAP machine or something.
Yeah. How old was he? How old do you think?
I think he was closer to 100 than he was to 50.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know. Maybe I came to understand that this man had a series of medical conditions that potentially made him appear much older than he was. So he was a very large man.
Okay.
And a very, very troubled man when it came to the somnambulistic department. He emitted the most unholy noises when he was sleeping. So he's like swallowing his tongue. He's like belching, all guttural sounds. He wakes up the whole dorm. The dorm's empty by 7 because everyone's been like forced to leave essentially.
Oh, no,
Attempts to shake him awake and say, "Hey mate, your phone's on." I just met with grunts. He's out like a light.
Shit. And you're like
He's
clocking the
unwakeable.
gaze. You're like making eye contact with people on other bunks and stuff. And I mean, I've been in situations like that when there is a guest that no one wants to deal with or appreciates, but I've never been in someone like he sounds almost repulsive in a way.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, man. Like everyone is very, very aware of everyone else's perception, just telepathically. Everyone's this is crazy.
God.
So we all get up kind of early and we go out for the day.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we come back to that room, he's like converted one corner of the room into sort of studio apartment. The furniture has been rearranged so it sort of goes around his bed. So now there's like a table next to his bunk bed with 3 mugs of tea of varying stages of being drunk sort of strewn out, like an old crisp wrapper, a towel on the floor. It's just like he's just converted the whole thing into his space.
Oh, you're joking. That's really inconsiderate, obviously. I wouldn't have the confidence to say anything to someone like that. I really wouldn't. I've been in situations that maybe not as extreme as that, but when someone's really starting to treat the dorm room like their own and encroaching on other people's, either privacy or, the amount of there's a lot of unwritten rules that we speak about when it comes to sleeping in a dorm, and I feel like this guy's breaking all of them.
At this point, no one had really spoken about him, though. Everyone had sort of
to each other,
been like, "This was crazy," and we were all aware that it was like, "Wow, that was pretty loud last night." But because he only came in at 6 a.m, so everyone sort of gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everyone sort of gave him the benefit of the doubt, and sort of just thought, well, we'll see. Maybe he had a very, very long flight. Maybe he was like fucked up. Who knows? So we all go to sleep. At 3 a.m,
Right.
the lights come on in the dorm room.
Oh my God.
Full blast. All the lights come on. And he walks in wearing a towel. And just starts pottering around the dorm room, going up to the lockers, going back, picking up his tea, just walking around as if it was the middle of the day and it was no
As if
problem.
it was the day. Brilliant. Are you all fast asleep, right? You're all sleeping at that point. Maximum occupancy. Yeah.
So there's 10 of us in the room, right?
You're joking. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's nuts. I see everyone sort of pop their head out like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I thought, you know what? I'll take it upon myself. I went, hey, mate, there's people sleeping. Please don't just switch the light on. I think that's the only time I heard him speak. He goes, oh, I'll close it off then. In some nondescript accent, right? He goes, closes off the light, gets into his bed, turns on his bed light, which is like really quite bright anyway. At 3 in the morning.
Superb.
Starts watching videos on his phone and immediately, comically quickly, falls dead asleep again, snoring, screeching, belching. I mean, it was nobody that he'd woken up with the light had fallen asleep.
Yeah. Oh, what a pain in the arse that sounds like.
He was nuts.
I'm impressed that you confronted him, that you were the one to say. I mean, it must have been really bad. It would have been have to have been pretty bad for me to say anything to him. But the audacity, like how can you be that oblivious? I think that's probably the right word. It's complete obliviousness. He just doesn't understand what is socially acceptable. I don't know if does someone in that situation who maybe doesn't pick up on social cues think if these people have opted to have a room with other people in it, maybe they've just surrendered and they've just got to put up with any shit that is thrown at them.
People went on to complain to the hostel staff and said like, look, like no one slept. Like everyone woke up at 3 a.m. and no one got back to sleep. His phone alarm went off at 5 a.m.
If ever there was a guy that should be moved into a private room free of charge at the expense of the hostel.
There was a Scouse guy in the room, and when his phone alarm went like 2 hours after he fell asleep and woke everyone up, He
Yeah.
just was sleeping through it. The Scouse guy went like, wake up, your phone alarm's going off. And he sort of rolls over and goes, yeah, switches it off and then starts snoring again. There was no attempt could be made to like reason with him, to stop him, like, hey, you've ruined 10 people's next day.
Yeah. Yeah, God.
None of us got more than a couple of hours sleep. It was mad. I felt like ever since he checked into the room, I was living in this sort of dream walk kind of state of like not knowing what was real. I was told, and I didn't bear witness to this, that he was injecting insulin in the bathroom with the cubicle door just open.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, there's not like... There's not much you could tell me now that I wouldn't be like, yeah, probably. But was it tense inside the room or hostel? Did it bring you together at all, or did you? I would have avoided him like the plague. If it was
Yeah,
me.
it actually introduced a sense of bonhomie within like the rest of the group, because people were like, "Oh, I hope he's coming back tonight. That guy. I hope he can like. And if he does something tonight, we've all got to say something. Yeah, we'll all get up and we'll like wake him up, and we were all kind of strategizing."
Yeah, I can imagine that all too well. What did the hostel have to say about it? I mean, it's not ultimately their responsibility, but I think you should educate people in dorms, shouldn't you? If it's riling that number of people, because if you all wrote Google reviews, and Google reviews do go a hell of a long way. I mean, I think some people underestimate just how important they are. But that would be 9 very negative Google reviews that could hit their business hard. So I know it's not their fault, but they could have managed the situation by the sounds of it.
Yeah, we told them on the second night, and there wasn't a third night. He left.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, maybe they would have done what they could, or I didn't speak to them. Someone else did. So maybe they said, oh, if it happens again, come and let us know. But I wonder let's call him Klaus. I wonder what Klaus's perception of what happened was. Like, does he know?
Maybe he thought he just had 9 really sensitive bunkmates. But I don't know if he even registered that we were upset or trying to wake him. I think, like, when I said turn off the light, he was just like, oh, I will then. I will turn off the light because you've asked me to. Not, oh my God, how crazy is it that I thought that was okay to turn the light? I'm so sorry. Yeah. Yeah, you might be right. I mean, he probably moves through life like that.
Oblivious.
I would have thought. Yeah, I guess so. Because there's just no way you would behave in a dorm like that. I mean, maybe I'm biased. Maybe it's impossible for me to be completely objective in this. But even if it was your first time ever in a dorm, surely there'd be some level of consideration, wouldn't there? If someone was asleep, like a family member of his or a friend was asleep in a room, you wouldn't just whack the fucking light on, would you?
Exactly. I mean, there's separate issues, isn't there? In one column, it's like Klaus obviously has medical issues. He's injecting himself with insulin. He's managed to do that even in the most like unconscientious way possible, leaving the door open for someone to find him jabbing himself like half naked in a cubicle. But like he was on a lot of medication. I saw the medication strewn out over his studio apartment. He was injecting himself. He obviously has sleep apnea. There's issues going on with Klaus that might be beyond Klaus's control. He's medically, he was very overweight and all that stuff. So he's snoring and all that stuff. I can sort of, you can almost tolerate it. You're like, oh, okay, he's ill. Like, I think personally he should know that about himself and he should check himself into a private room. He should take the onus on himself to spend a bit more money to save other people from his chronic snoring. That's definitely what I think.
Yeah,
sure.
I
don't think it's immoral. I just think it's, objectively, he's not doing the right thing. Coming in and turning the light on, setting your phone alarm, generally just striding about at 3 a.m. without a care that you've obviously woken everyone up. He could see that he'd woken people up. That stuff, that's just psychopathy.
Yeah. Yeah, you've absolutely got to be more aware of your movements and how they affect other people. It sounds awful, mate. It sounds really bad. Were you heavily affected in terms of your energy levels for the next day then?
100%. There was one day of the tour where I went to see Gegard and Ghani, where I had I think maybe 0 to 1 hour's sleep as a result of his behavior.
Oh God.
So I saw it through a sort of filter of somnambulistic wonder.
Yeah, this wasn't the same tour as the American woman, was it, that was trying to end everything?
No, that was the other one. So there's at least one person that ruined every tour for me.
Yeah, I imagine your patience would have been incredibly short if it had been that tour that day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she'd have known about it. I'd have thrown her in Lake Savan.
Or you would have jumped on the bandwagon. Yeah, let's fucking end the tour now. I'm done.
Yeah, you know what, American woman? I'm tired and I want to go back to Yerevan, so I hope you're happy. Okay,
absolute class.
Listen, mate, that was Armenia. That was a round of Armenia. Very Alun heavy episode this week because there was just so much to get to because time is propelling forward quickly. I'm going to go back to Georgia. I'm going to do a whistle-stop tour through Georgia for 2 weeks, intensely seeing everything I can see. You're somewhere special, aren't you? You're traveling all around. Where are you?
Yeah. I haven't done the reveal, but I took a little flight away from India. I'm very sad. We'll talk about that on another episode, I'm sure. But I'm feeling those types of emotions that you only feel when you've been somewhere for a very long time. Perhaps somewhere you feel like you belong, where you've made connections. It's difficult. But I took a flight to somewhere I've been trying to visit for a very long time. Mate, I'm in Taiwan.
Whoa. Okay, so we're going to hear all about that on future episodes of Tripology. I can't wait. Adam, if people want to watch more of us, if they want to get in touch, where can they go?
They can go to our bloody website, mate. tripologypodcast.com.
Yeah.
It's there. Woo! Go and look at all our stuff.
Yeah, there's contact forms, there's everything you need there. For now, though, we're going to head off to the Patreon section where the episodes come out 24 hours early and you get an extra little bit at the end called the Lost and Found section. It gets all crazy. We're going to head there now. Lots more stories to come on Tripology.
We'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.